It used to be when I was upset, really upset, I'd spin into a loud rage and spew salty words. My husband called her the Tasmanian devil. Cartoonish, but not funny. I was ashamed of her, actually, because I felt out of control. And then I realized this explosion was a powerful signal. And gradually, I learned why. Do you know the word used to describe women who speak out and rage at injustice? Hysterical. The derivation, the Greek word for hystera, meaning uterus. Yeah, womb. For centuries, women who got upset and spoke out were diagnosed as hysterical. Their passion dismissed, their pain gaslighted, their stories erased. The cure? Antidepressants, institutionalization, sometimes worse. So if being hysterical means I have a womb, I'm outraged at injustice, and I want to talk about it, then I am proudly, powerfully, unapologetically hysterical. So to be honest, I didn't start that way. This 8-year-old that we were talking about here, creative, spontaneous, silly, whale spout ponytail with ball bands, yeah. I spent my afternoons, like many of you, out in the woods practicing handstands, doodling. I thought I was going to be the next Norman Rockwell. That was the first artist I'd heard of. And I was completely myself, silly. Then in high school, something happened. Picture, AP art history class. Art history majors out here, anyone? No? Our teacher projects on the screen a Baroque Italian masterpiece. It's a commanding portrait of a woman in velvet with a cloak staring directly at the audience. Our teacher asked us to identify the artist. We looked in our textbook. We looked in our notes. We were stumped. Then our teacher points to the canvas, and in the corner there's a hint. The artist had signed the painting. It was Artemisia Gentileschi. Okay. She was dressed, it was a self-portrait, and she was dressed as St. Catherine of Alexandria. So what's the big deal? She wasn't in the art history book, the most renowned art history book of its time. Only a couple women artists were listed in the book. I was gobsmacked. And I felt something shift in me that day. It was a visceral knowing that there was a major mismatch between the world I was living in and the world under the surface. And I couldn't quite name it, but I felt it. And that was my first aha moment. And it changed my life trajectory. It led me to following a fiery thread of curiosity, to learn more about the world. I became a college student, studied history, art, French, traveled to Paris, sketched nudes at the l'École des Beaux-Arts. And I ended up landing a job at the Smithsonian Institution. And I thought that was great. But the harsh reality, this famous institution was not the idyllic job I imagined. It was bureaucratic, hierarchical, and in fact, my prospects as a curator were nil without an advanced degree or a trust fund, neither of which I had. So this lit a second fire in my belly. That how could I become an independent woman or maybe direct a museum, I don't know, without money and earning power and power? I needed to demystify this thing called business. What was this thing? Or I'd never progress. So I earned an MBA, which was painful and dull, but it gave me credibility that I craved. And there I discovered entrepreneurship. I thought, well, this is it. Okay, this is surely my ticket to independence and creativity, right? I ended up founding and building a startup that combined my knowledge of art and art history with business and the internet wave. It was called museumshop.com, and it was an exciting, adrenaline-filled whirlwind of 6 years building, hiring teams, raising money, forming strategic partnerships. Diana became one of my advisors. We partnered with 70 museums and had 4,000 products. We're one of the first online marketplaces for museum stores. It was intimidating, it was exciting, it was terrifying, and I did it anyway. Then, after 9/11, everything came to a crashing halt and the internet bubble burst, our acquisition failed, and we had to wind down the company. I was devastated. My dreams were squashed, and I was 100% burned out, totally burned out. So at 38, with a 3-year-old and an infant on the way, I left the startup world and became a SAM, stay-at-home mom. Now I gotta be honest, domestic bliss evaded me. In spite of our nice home, our great community, my volunteering at the PTA, church, all this stuff, I was itching for more. Literally. And that Tasmanian devil reared her ugly head. That was my signal that something was off. So I decided to join a new startup to scratch that itch. Tapping wasn't in the picture then. And that would allow me to finally focus on my calling to help women become financially independent through entrepreneurship. 2 years in, I had a minivan moment, the third fiery thread in my life. Picture me sitting in a parking lot, gripping the steering wheel of my Toyota Sienna, silver, sobbing, mascara just dripping down my face. Not a pretty sight. I had recently learned the grim statistics for female startup success. Even though women start businesses at the same rate as men, only 2% get venture capital. And that number had not changed for 25 years. It still hasn't. And the fire in my belly was ignited again. And sitting there in that van, I understood that my job was not the right fit, and time was running out. So this meant jumping off the cliff again, which absolutely terrified me. Weeks later, I launched In a Nutshell Consulting to guide female founders to turn their brilliant ideas into businesses. And businesses that actually got funded, that were actually sustainable, and that prospered. This past 10 years of guiding hundreds of founders and becoming an angel investor in the past 5 years has been deeply, deeply gratifying. Not easy, but gratifying. And I'm happy to say that it has grounded me through what I call my mid-century season of loss. Maybe you've been there too. It helped me survive what I call middlescence, that chapter where everyone expects you to wind down, but your heart and soul are telling you otherwise. And I've been able to recalibrate after each loss, rediscover where I've abandoned myself and what blows my hair back, as Diana says. Remember and honor who I was designed to be. Say no to things that deplete my soul, and return to that curious, silly, fearless 8-year-old girl inside of me. Now I'm deliberately voting with my wallet and my voice. And I'm focused on what I want to see in the world. I'm supporting leaders who are addressing problems I care about: the environment, women's health, caregiving, financial fluidity. And I've learned that creating wealth and independence isn't just about money. It's about consciously nurturing your well-being, a common theme here, and deliberately incorporating joy into each day. So in following the threads of my life, I discovered where my inner fire comes from. You see. Okay, take this off now. Okay. My ancestral grandmother, can you hear me? was tried and executed in Salem. Her crime being salty of tongue for speaking her truth and refusing to be quiet. It burns me up that no one was able to stick up for her in the 1600s. My wise friends, we have a secret power, a power my grandmother never had. I call it the invisibility cloak. No one sees us or expects anything from us. Ladies, this is our titanium. Our unfair advantage, to speak some business terms, because we have a lot to say. And we can use our collective salty fire to take the world by surprise. Thank you for witnessing my story. I hope by sharing these threads with you that you as well are no longer afraid of being outraged or ashamed of desiring a better world, because your perspective is worthy. I believe that we can each teach each other how to both grieve what's happening right now and still be tapped in, tuned in, and turned on to nurture our well-being. So, my fellow questers, I will end with a small call to action. I hope that's okay. No, I wasn't assigned to do that. But I believe we are living in a unique moment right now. There has never been a time in all of history when there are as many women at our age who are educated, experienced, healthy, financially independent, and wise. Never. And the world is just beginning to understand the implications, and they're freaked out. So now is not the time to make everyone else feel comfortable, to shrink, or to go quiet. Now is the time to invoke the strength of all the generations of women who came before us. It's time to imagine the world we want to see. It's time to innovate and invest in each other. Because when we women who are outraged at injustice, salty of tongue, and grounded in joy, when we stand together and speak out, we are not only hysterical, we are historical. Her-storically. Thank you.